What if your dreams weren't actually dreams at all? What if love, loss, and the spirit world were trying to communicate with you during your sleep? Well, that's exactly what happened to the viewer you are about to listen to. They felt their loved one, they seen their loved one. However, was there something more sinister taking place with a familiar face? Or could this simply have been the grieving process? In this episode, we are going to be taking a deep dive into the haunting topic of reoccurring dreams. We are going to be giving you some testimonials. We are going to be bringing you some facts, some scientific evidence, and we are going to be helping you, more importantly, to understand why these dreams are occurring. And if you have had one of these dreams, what to look out for during. If you're new to the channel, my name is Psychic Medium Jordan Corbin, and I can prove with evidence of the afterlife. I've helped thousands of people on this earth plane to once again be able to reach out and contact their loved ones in spirit from the understandings and the teachings, and now it's your turn. Each and every one of you can become great mediums. In here at Help Heal Serve, we can give you the very foundations to forge your own unique understanding with the spirit world. Not to mention, we have the loving and supporting Help Heal Serve family. Also, I'd like to say a big massive thank you to all of the channel members, to each and every one of you who like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I should get my words out properly, shouldn't I? It makes a big difference. You'll see that this channel is just going whoosh, we're soaring for the skies, and it's all thanks to each and every one of you. Why don't we now take a little bit of a listen to the voice note that was sent in by Alice, and let's each and every one of you, before I break the question down and give you an understanding, let's see what has actually happened.
Hi Jordan, I really love your channel. Your videos have massively helped me. I was wondering if you could help me with something. So I keep having reoccurring dreams. I don't know if there's a meaning behind it. But I just wanted to hear what your thoughts are on it. So I don't know when it started, but I think around 3 a.m. over the past few weeks. That's always when I wake up now. Is it stress? Or is it communication from the spirit world? It always starts the same. I'm cooking with my late partner. There's music, laughter, and singing, and then suddenly they disappear and it's just me. The room falls quiet, and darkness casts a shadow over the now empty room. A thud echoes, and a flash of white light takes over, and weirdly, I'm now standing over my restful body asleep, just watching, like an outsider, but then I merge into myself. I open my eyes and I can't move, not even a twitch. My body's frozen, like I'm trapped under ice. I try to scream, but nothing comes out, and that's when I see my late partner standing at the end of my bed, but the energy feels different, like a shell of who they were, and they just stand still, watching me. The air changes, it gets colder, denser, like the room isn't mine anymore. Every time I blink, it's closer, but there's always a space between us, until there wasn't. Last night, they leaned in, close enough that I could feel them breathe. Then they slowly touched my forehead, just gently. Then I woke up full of sweat and shaking, but it doesn't make any sense. If they're my loved one, why was I so scared? Their touch just felt like a stranger.
Well, thank you for sending your question in. Why don't we just get straight into it? Each and every one of you, I think we can all agree, any sort of nighttime activity, irrespective to what's occurring, if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and even if your mind's just ticking over, doing its own little thing, you're going to get a little bit freaked out. Let's be completely honest. We are nocturnal creatures. As a species, we have evolved to work during daytime hours. Yes, there may be a lot of you who actually work night shifts, but what I'm trying to say here is that in the first instance, each and every one of you, when you wake up at nighttime, there's always like a horrible feeling that comes over. Now, put aside the story that you've just heard, and we're going to get to that in a second. But what I want you to do is to forget about that story for just 2 seconds and think of you as a person now. If you wake up at any time during the morning, does it feel natural? No, it bloody doesn't. It feels horrible, doesn't it? And especially if you're somebody like me who likes your sleep, you don't want to be waking up. But there's always a part of the conscious mind when you wake up, even though your mind's still in a lower theta because you've just woke up from a sleep-like state, you are still drifting. You are kind of consciously awake, but your brain's like, let's go back to sleep. I want to get more sleep. So you are in the, you're in the interim period. You're before the sleep and in your another wake section. So during this time, this is where a lot of you are going to experience, you are going to physically, emotionally experience paranormal activity. And why? What is it that stops each and every one of you from being able to connect in the first instance or to see spirits? What is it that stops you? Because it's not you as a person. It's the conditioning of the mind. The mind is telling you what you can see, what you can't see, what you should be seeing, what you shouldn't be seeing. We'll mention it all of the time. Now, when you go from a sleep state into a conscious state, but you are in an altered, you're in an altered state effectively. You're not because you are consciously awake, but your mind is starting this kind of start to sleep. It's like each and every one of you, right? If before you fall asleep, a lot of you, you'll feel like a little warmth coming over you. Just before you fall asleep, you just feel at rest, at peace, and then you'll just drift off. This is your body going through the emotions, going through the processes that it has to follow. When you are waking up suddenly, or when something has woken you up into a room, then unfortunately you've went from being in that nice katumic state spirit or shouting. It's basically when you're I can't say the word properly, man. They're laughing at us. When you're cocooned, that they've just shouted cocooned. When you're in a cocooned state where you are just at one with yourself and you sleep, and then all of a sudden you're taken out of that comfort zone. Straight away, your senses are going into a heightened state. You're like, oh, what's happening around here? So you're going to start to panic. You're going to start to freak out because we've woken up. That's the first shock to the system. The second shock to the system is why is it dark? Why is it nighttime? A lot of you will experience paranormal activity during this time because your mind is not conditioned during that time to make the conscious decisions that it will through the day. Don't get that twisted. I'm not saying when you wake up at night you don't know what's right or wrong. What I'm saying is the mental blocks that you have put in place as a human being, the conditioning that you have had forced upon you is not there. It's not present. It's only when you come around and you are fully awake and you're like, ding. For me, it's like 2 seconds after waking up. But as soon as your eyes go ding and you start consciously doing processes, you're reaching for your phone, you're doing this, you're going to make a cup of tea, you are now out of that cocoon state. You are now in a heightened state of alertness. A lot of the time you will experience paranormal activity because of the before mentioned, because your mind is not telling you in this moment what you should be seeing and what's right and what's wrong. However, let's come over to the story. I wanted to give a little bit of an outline for why a lot of you will be scared when you wake up first thing in the morning. And again, it's the fight or flight mechanism will kick in a lot of the time. We also have lots of different medical terms. We have sleep paralysis. We have night terrors. There's many more. Listen, each and every one of them has got their own scare factor to them. Into the person who's experiencing it, it can become very scary for you as a person because it doesn't put it into context. All of these scientific explanations, and when you have a look at it doesn't put it into the context of how you as a person actually go through this traumatic experience, because that's exactly what it is. It's traumatic. Coming over to the spirit side of it. When we're going through, let's just go through together. I know you have heard it, but let's just go through. I've got the notes here of exactly what was said. So let's go through and let's break it down piece by piece. So I keep having these reoccurring dreams. Could they have another meaning? Well, first of all, reoccurring dreams, to each and every one of you, know that reoccurring dreams always have a meaning. Depending on you as a person, it is going to depend on what it is. A lot of you might have a reoccurring dream if it's a warning from spirit, if there's action that needs to be taken, if there's something that you should be doing that you aren't doing. For example, you may be somebody going along your life journey and you are having a nightmare with work. It's getting to your mental health. It's getting you into a very, very dark place, and you can't physically yourself claw out of that pit of despair. But you are having reoccurring dreams of leaving. This is the conditioning that the spirit world are giving you. They are showing you that there are different avenues to pursue. There's always in this life, there is always another avenue. This is what a lot of people don't realize. Yes, it's difficult when we're talking about mental health, and yes, it's difficult because sometimes it doesn't seem like there's any other alternative. But mark my words, as you have oxygen flowing through your lungs and you have the abilities to make decisions, you, my friend, have endless potential. And that's not a spirit in a spiritual sense. I'm telling you, as a person to person, you can make these changes. And a lot of the time, when we go into these residual, or we go into these reoccurring dreams, residual dreams, whatever you want to call it, you are going to see these scenarios playing out. You are going to see you taking different decisions that you naturally wouldn't take in the materialistic plane. The reason why you wouldn't is because A, you don't believe in yourself, B, mankind have suppressed you, or C, you just don't think that it's in your path. The spirit world will give you reoccurring dreams to any one of you who are experiencing reoccurring dreams. You need to start documenting them in a dream journal. It's pivotal to you as a person for your spiritual development and your ability to grow as an individual, to be documenting each and every section of the way. Reoccurring dreams are what they say on the tin. For those of you who don't know, a reoccurring dream is going to be something, it's like an echo of time. It's going to repeat itself. Maybe there might be very subtle changes to the dream. However, the main premise of it is going to portray something in the same way. That being said, depending on you as a person, it's going to depend on how this reoccurring dream. So, are you somebody who consistently dreams of your loved one who's now in spirit? Is this a recurring dream? No. This is the spirit world coming to you during a dream, but it's not a recurring dream. However, if in that dream your loved one comes to you and says a specific word over and over again in all of the different dreams, then this, my friend, is a reoccurring dream. There's a reason why your loved one is now coming to you. And yes, before anyone says, I did just mention, the spirit will do come to you in dreams. I've proven it time and time again. Each and every one of you have been brought to my channel for a reason. Each and every one of you, the spirit world will be working with you now in these moments. And I would love to know in the comment section how many of you have also seen the spirit world during you, or even just let me know how many of you had reoccurring dreams. And remember, you can also send your questions in. So we've covered that part. We've covered the very, very first part. So I don't know when it started. Is there a significant reason for why reoccurring dreams will start, or anything in a spiritual sense or in a mediumistic sense? There is always a trigger. There is always something, whether that be your emotional status, whether that be circumstantial changes, whether that be financial changes, whether that be friendships, whether that be relationship. There's always going to be a trigger within you which is going to start seeking this information, because you as a person, for those of you who don't know, you as a person are effectively an antenna. You can look at yourself like an antenna. When you go into a sleep state, it is your soul that is reaching out to the spirit world, not consciously you. You aren't consciously doing anything in those moments. You are in a lower theta. You are in a sleep state, a cocoon state, so to speak. However, what happens is your soul will actively start reaching out to spirit, and it'll start asking for advice. Please, 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 can you tell Jordan what he needs to know? Because he's keep going to this job and this job isn't right for him. Please help him, help him. And then, because a lot of you might not realize, but the soul is constantly in communication with the spirit world. Your soul is a direct link to energy. It is the most direct link that you will ever see or feel on this planet. Your soul has a direct link to the spirit world. Therefore, in a sleep-like state, when your mind is no longer in control, your soul will start saying, he needs to do this. He's not doing this. I've told him. I've tried him. I've tried telling him through intuition. I've tried telling him, but he's not listening. Can you try? And the spirit world will actively come forward, and they will help each and every one of you to learn different aspects to you as a person. So there's always a trigger for it. This isn't something that will just randomly happen. Also, in terms of when this will happen, could this be down to, could it be down to grieving? 100%. 100% this can be triggered by grieving. 100% this can be triggered by your emotional response. 100% this can be caused by circumstances around you that you can't control, which is causing a fear-based notion to manifest at the forefront of your mind. This is one thing that I've got to be very clear with on this video. There are many different, there's not just one glove fits all. And I know that would be the quickest solution and the easiest answer, but that's not the reality to the world to which we exist in. There are many different triggers that are going to cause reoccurring dreams or even interactions with the spirit world in your sleep. It would be unfair for me to say straight away out of the bat, well, this is it, because no one can do that. The only people that can do that are the spirit world. And it's your job to work with the spirit world to understand some of why these reoccurring dreams are occurring. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? I think around 3 a.m. over the past 3 weeks, that's always when I wake up now. Is it stress? Let's look at it. Let's come away from the medium side of it. Let's come away from the mediumship. Now, I've spoken with this person. I've also got this account. I'm telling you, it's 100%. I know this is spirit. But let's not just run down the avenue of we've got a bone and we're going to go with that because that's what we're going to do. No, let's look at it from the body's point of view. Could this be happening because the individual has entered new employment? Well, the person has entered new employment. That change in itself is enough to fluctuate the emotional response of the human brain. It's going to bring you new triggers. It's going to bring new responses. Therefore, it's taken much more power to do what it would normally do. I've also spoken to the individual in person, and they have also had a death within the family within the last month. Now, logically, let's start thinking about this, not in the spirit sense. Let's think about this in a different avenue. We now have two known possible triggers that could have been contributing to everything that we have seen. This is what you've all got to do. When you have reoccurring dreams, don't just put them down to being spirit. Anything, and I mean that for anything in a spirit sense, in a paranormal sense, when anything happens in your world, do not stop everything and think, it's the spirit world. Because sometimes it's your body screaming out. It's telling you that, look, you need to pay attention. You are run down. If you don't start listening to me, I'm going to start breaking down. And when I do, unfortunately, you, my friend, are the one that's going to suffer. Because what you've got to realize with the brain, and not to treat you like you're silly, because I know you aren't silly, but to bring it into context, the brain is one of the most powerfulest computers that you will ever find on this planet. And human beings only use about 3% of their brain. You can only imagine what happens when you start working in mediumship and you start unlocking different parts of your mind, different parts of your brain where you can start using different clair abilities and you can start honing in on different parts of mediumship. That being said, it's very powerful. We want it to be working with us, not against us. And if you are somebody who is not spending time on yourself in self-reflection, in self-development, in meditative states so that you can relax, you can unwind, you can detach from the materialistic existence to which you could reside in, the problem is you will go through what I call burnout. Effectively, each and every person who doesn't look after themselves is going to go through it. Fun fact, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I've been through burnout not recently, but I remember a long time ago, I went through it twice. And this is when I was working. This is where I wasn't working with spirit, but what I was doing is I've always been greedy when it comes to money. I'm greedy when it comes to food, to be honest. That's why I can't lose my waist. But I've always been quite greedy and never ever put my health first. And to be fair, right, not that our world's smallest file in there, but there's going to be a lot of you who watch this who are just the same as me. I'm just a normal person. A lot of us fall victim to just the green-eyed monster. We want money. And through that, I think I had worked 3 weeks in a row, 14-hour shifts. It's fully like it's not meant to happen. I've got to be careful with what I say on it, but really, I mean, it was that long ago. I don't think anything would come back on us. But like literally 3 weeks, 14-hour shifts with no breaks. And I thought I was just taking it for the team. I was just smashing it. I was making money. The company were proud of us. I had a false sense of loyalty towards the company, or they had one towards me. And I thought I was just doing them a great job and I was just the best employee and that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to please them. I wanted to be the best I could be. The problem with that is I soon learned very, very quick that whilst I wanted to do that, my brain wanted to do that But the body, the vessel part of us, has limitations. And unfortunately, I went through exhaustion. It was one of the most horriblest things that I've ever done because I'm a very active person. I'm very everything. I'm full on. And while I went through exhaustion, I kind of locked myself in the house. I didn't want to leave the house. I become like a recluse. I was like a shadow of myself for 2 weeks. I was anxiety riddled. There was no control. I couldn't do nothing. My body had just shut down. It took us a while to get back into my normal rhythm. So let that be a lesson to each and every one of you. You might think that you can do everything. You might think that you can carry the world. You might think you can carry everyone else's problems. But at some point, that is going to come back to bite you on the backside. You need to cut that sort of ego straight out, especially if you want to become a medium. You need to get rid of that. It's never, ever going to serve you. Focusing on your health. So stress is definitely 100% going to be a contributor to having these reoccurring dreams, and so is grieving. So is all of the mental, emotional responses that we've spoken about to do with the brain. Or is this communication from the spirit world? What you've got to remember is when the spirit world act, they act intelligently. They don't do anything that would lead you to believe, was it or could it have been spirit? When it's spirit, my friends, you bloody hell know it's spirit. There is no if, buts, what if, could it have been? I wonder. You know in your heart of heart, you know when the spirit world have been with you in those moments. There is no ifs or buts. And my friend, I'm telling you now 100%, this was the spirit world. And the reason why I can tell you that is because when we've listened to the story, there are a lot of parallels that run alongside of it being spirit. In the first instance, you have to look on a case by case because a lot of you might have this same experience. The problem is it might not be spirit. It might be that you are psychologically seeing things. You have run yourself into the ground. You are hallucinating. You could be on medication. So there's loads of different aspects to look at. But was this account spirit communication? 100%, because the parallels and the synchronicities from this show and highlight the evidence of the spirit world. It always starts at the same time. So now we're going into the dream. This is what the individual is experiencing. It always starts the same. I'm cooking with my late partner. There's music, laughter, and singing. And then suddenly, they disappear and it's just me. The room falls quiet and darkness casts a shadow over the now empty room. Each and every one of you can gauge a picture there of what's happening, and you can imagine why the viewer wanted to reach out to give her the story, because in the first instance, to anyone who experiences this, it's going to be bloody terrifying, isn't it? To have this as a reoccurring dream. It's kind of highlighting loneliness, its vulnerabilities, insecurities in the mental capacity. But then when we come to the next section, a thud echoes and a flash of white light takes over, and weirdly, I nearly said weirdly, I'm now standing over my restful body asleep, just watching, like an outsider, but then I merge into myself. This, my friends, is what you call astral traveling. In this case, the extrasensory ability, the astral traveling, what has happened is you have been in a dreamlike state. As you have been in the dream, the spirit will know that you are comfortable with the laughing. They know that you are comfortable with seeing your partner. They know that you are comfortable with the laughter, the singing. They know that you are happy with that. So this is where they will get you with the hook of intrigue. They effectively put you into a calm state. This is during your sleep state. And when you are in that calm state, then the next thing that happens is the flash of white light. Boom! In the sound of bang. This is where you have now come from the human form and you are looking at the human body. And there's a lot of you who may have never ever even heard of astral traveling. Astral traveling is bloody amazing. I love it. I adore it. It's amazing. You can go anywhere. I've walked across the surface of the moon. I've been to Egypt. I mean, not in a physical sense, but in astral traveling, I have. And there's a lot of you who are going to think, well, actually, when you're astral traveling, Jordan, that's a little bit creepy because there's a misconception around this. There's a lot of people who believe that when you astral travel, you're going spy on people. You go and remote view people. To those of you who don't understand how remote viewing works, believe me when I say this, people cannot spy on you. The government do not spy on you. There is no one. The spirit world do not give people the abilities to be able to spy on one another. If you notice anything about the spirit world, they are there for your own self-development. Your own self-development is not spying on Sheila from the spiritualist church. And I don't care what anyone's told you. I get it. I get it. There's people out there who will spout out loads of things. And why did I say this? It is there to incite fear into the minds of each and every one of you to make them look like they can do something that you can't. One thing that I would say to anyone who wants to challenge my theory on this, first of all, I prove everything that I do on a daily basis, and I prove the energies that I work with. So when I speak with conviction, it's not because of the literature of mankind, it is but the ideologies of the spirit world. I guarantee with certainty there is not one person who can use spirit abilities to do horrible things to mankind. Because spirit world aren't horrible, not even evil. We've proven it time and time again. But you have these practitioners who will, because they know yous are scared and that they know that yous don't understand how this works, they'll say, I'm gonna send my little spirits to come and spy on you. And the thing is one thing to any one of you who get a little bit of fear from someone who tells you that, stop them in the tracks. Tell them, say, can you tell me what I'm wearing? And they'll go, no, it doesn't work. Yeah, because you can't bloody do it. And that's as simple as it is. Really, when you go astral traveling, a lot of you'll find the world doesn't look how you see it. And why doesn't it? Spirit are telling us, why doesn't it look the same as it would through your human eyeballs? Why do you think? Because the eyes are there to see the vibrational patterns and frequencies on planet Earth. When you are astral traveling, you are energy. You are an energy being. You don't have eyes. So the limitations of the eyes are now gone. That's why you can see things in a very different way. The colours are amazing. The sounds, amazing. The smells, amazing. Nothing like you would have experienced in the materialistic, because this vessel that we have is effectively a prison. It stops us from being able to have senses in a different way and to be able to experience things in a different manner. So, yes, I know I went into a little bit of a tangent there, but it's important for you all to know, whilst, yes, you will go astral traveling, you cannot use that for your own personal gain in terms of doing nasty deeds to mankind. It doesn't work like that. And when people tell you that, you need to look them in the eyes and say, they're a liar, because that's exactly what they are doing. They are trying to scare you in those moments. Smash it out, stamp it out. Let's get rid of those nonsensical notions that mankind have polluted this earth plane with. Let's come over to the next part of this. The room falls, the laughter, singing, and suddenly they all disappear and it's just me. The room falls quiet and darkness casts a shadow of the now empty room. A thud and a flash of white light takes over, and weirdly I'm now standing over my restful body. We've explained what's happened there. That's a stereotypical textbook example of what will happen when you leave your physical form during the sleep state to go astral traveling. Just watching like an outsider, then I merge into myself. So what's actually happened there is you've merged. You've come out your human form. This has been an acknowledgement from the spirit world. Look, you're capable of doing this, my friend. You are looking over your restful body, and then the spirit world are sending you back in. I open my eyes and I can't move. This is again, this is something that a lot of you will experience all of the time when it comes to any sort of fear-based experience, whether that be through spirit, when you've seen a spirit and you don't understand what's happening. And this is very, very simple. It's a survival technique that's built into each and every human being. Fun fact, it's why each and every one of us are still alive to this day. It's called the fight or flight mechanism. It's designed by default in all human beings. when something is happening and you don't fully understand it, I'll give you a little bit of an example, right? Because, I mean, this is a great example, to be fair. When I first seen Spirit at the age of 6-year-old, I didn't realize what it was at the time. And to give you a little bit of context, I know a lot of you have heard my story, so I'm not going to bore you all with how I see in Spirit and all of these different things. But let's just get to the nitty gritty. When I first seen Spirit at the age of 6-year-old, I hadn't yet been conditioned by mankind to believe what was right, what was wrong, what I should be seeing, what I shouldn't be seeing. I didn't know anyone who had died. And I always remember when I first seen the 2 full body apparitions. For those of you who don't know, full body apparitions are spirits in their full form. Now, at the young age of 6, I hadn't refined my abilities of clairvoyance. Whilst I could see the spirit silhouettes, I couldn't make out any distinguishing features. As I looked at them and I locked eyes, I froze. And a lot of you who've seen Spirit, a lot of you who've had fear, a lot of you who've experienced something that you had no control over, a lot of you who've been in an abusive relationship or something just clicked, you will freeze. It's called fight or flight. In those moments, you are either going to fight for your life or you are going to take flight. In some instances, before you make the conscious decision to do either, you will pause. It's the brain trying to compute what it needs to do next. In my scenario, I could see 2 full body apparitions. Even at that young age, my brain I knew I shouldn't be seeing spirits. I didn't even know any dead people. I didn't know what dead people were, to be fair, at that time. And it made no sense. But even in those moments, I knew when I was watching and looking at these white apparitions, I knew that there was something happening. There was something that shouldn't be happening. Whilst, yes, unconditional love washed over us and I felt amazing and I felt at peace, there was still a mechanic that took over my body. And I was like, even now when the spirit world shows a little picture of his, right, full head, I had hair then, I was just like, and a lot of you have got to remember, this is the body's natural coping mechanism. It's there to help you. It's there to give you a little bit of time. It's there to help you to understand a situation. A lot of the time, spirit are reminding us as well, the fight or flight mechanic. It can be in every facet of your life. Don't just think of it being in mediumship. Don't just think of it being in relationship. This could happen at work. This could happen in many different places. But in this situation, it is happening. The individual has now had an out-of-body experience. They are now back in it and they've opened their eyes and they can't move. They're just solid, locked in position. They can't move. Not even a twitch. My body's frozen and I'm trapped like I'm under ice. I can't scream. Nothing comes out. Again, this may seem scary to a lot of you. And obviously to the viewer who sent a question in, this is going to be a scary experience for them. But let's not forget what we've just spoken about. We now understand why this is happening. It's not because the spirit world are putting some sort of a spell on us to make us stay still and frozen where we can't move, we can't scream, we're motionless. It's none of that. It's literally our body doing its job. It's natural to freeze. It's natural to be in that situation where you don't know what to do, for your body's instinct to take over you to keep you alive. So to every one of you who've experienced it, rather than thinking of it being in a negative way, like you've been possessed or something like that's happened, it's not. It's very simple. In those moments, your body has done a very, very good job of keeping you alive. What did we come to next? And nothing comes out. And that's when I see my late partner stand at the end of my bed. Now, this is where the intelligence part of the spirit world come in for me. This is where this story comes from being, we can kind of rule out. Fun fact, when I get these stories that come to me, the spirit world will tell us what I need to say anyway. So it's not really like I've got to do much work. But a lot of you in the first instance, the very, very top of, the question coming in, You could kind of argue and say, well, maybe it's medication, maybe it's sleep deprivation, maybe it's a case of some sort of psychometry within the mind, whether it could be some sort of neurological disorder. We've ruled all of that out at the beginning. And now we are getting into actually using the ability of clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is the ability of all seeing. It is seeing beyond the materialistic and into the energy realm. Fun fact, each and every one of you have clair abilities, and we will be educating each and every one of you how to use them. But in those moments, I can imagine it would have been scary, even though it's your loved one, even though it could be your best friend who's now in spirit. The fact that you have seen an apparition at the bottom of your bed, that's going to freak a lot of people out. Fun fact, right? Obviously the work that I do, in the way that I do my work, I'm very controversial in the way that I do it. But I make a big point to speak to a lot of people. Anyone who doesn't believe in it, or anyone who I speak to, I'll ask them if they've seen something. Out of 90% of the people who I've ever asked, every one of them has had a paranormal experience. And this is why it needs to be normalized during these sorts of videos. People need to become aware of it instead of hiding and being shamed for the experiences that they're going through. It needs to be highlighted to mankind. It needs to be normalized. It needs to be a part of everyday life. And this is by this understanding, by this new way of thinking, this is going to allow the spirit world to come more freely, to be able to show people, because unfortunately we're living in a day and age where if somebody doesn't agree with something you say because they haven't experienced it, it doesn't happen. And whilst I feel for them, because again, like a lot of people who say it to me, right, I get in the comment section a lot of time, charlatan, fraudster, scammer, all of these things. Because unfortunately, on the earth plane that we live, people have the right to free will. They have the ability to make comment and pass comment with no prior understanding. They'll just speak for the sake of speaking. They want to be heard. The problem is a lot of these individuals show their lack of connection or lack of even basic knowledge when it comes to this field. And I do genuinely feel sorry, because a lot of these people could have the healing that they needed if only they let their arrogance step aside, or they let their egotistical manners, their mindset shift. They could have these understandings, they could have the teachings, they could have the connection to their loved ones. Who wouldn't want to connect to their loved ones? But unfortunately, some people on this planet, they're never going to be able to do that. And again, it's not everyone can be the same. Right, so we've now discovered my late partner standing at the end of the bed. But their energy feels different, like a shell of who they were. And they just stand still, watching me. The air changes, it gets colder, denser, like the room isn't mine anymore. Now, this to a lot of people, automatically you're going to start assuming straight away that that's because it's not the loved one. That's because this is a negative energy. This is all that's happening there is the reason why it doesn't feel like your loved one, and the reason why in those moments you are starting to subtly pick up on the changes. Your extrasensory perceptions are just starting to go into a heightened state. Therefore, everything in that room at that moment in time isn't going to seem the way that it would have when you had actually known them, when they were living. And remember, the spirit world will come to you as they were in this life. But when you aren't refined in your clair senses, it isn't going to feel the same. It's like, for example, let's take this as the main example here. When you had a loved one and they were alive, living out their earthly existence. Sorry, the energy is getting really intense. When they were living out their earthly existence, and you would just cuddle them, and you would go up and you would cuddle them, your body become familiar with those emotions. Your body become familiar with that process. You would cuddle them, you would smell, you would get all of these different senses as you were cuddling them. You are looking for them exact same senses using your clair abilities. The problem is whilst, yes, you are using clairsentience and you are using some of your clair empathy and your clairvoyance, the problem is it's not the same as being in the materialistic. Because in the materialistic, you don't have to use clair senses, really. Because if somebody comes up to you and cuddles you, gives you a little bit of a smooch, gives you, gives you a little bit of, so you are naturally just doing that as part of the process, but you aren't trained and you aren't educated to be able to do that yet in mediumship. That's why a lot of you, when you see loved ones in spirit and they seem different, they seem like shells of themselves, they don't seem, it's not because the shells, it's because you aren't picking up on them as they were. It's very, very different. It's like a lot of people who smoke, they'll come off smoking tabs. It goes through the habit. And when they're smoking tabs, they come off smoking tabs and they'll go to something completely different, normally them little vapes. But they never just completely stop. And the reason being is because they're used to that routine. It's the same respect when it comes to seeing a loved one in the materialistic plane. When you see a loved one, when they are living and you just naturally give them a cuddle, that is just part of the habit. It's the routine that you go through. It's something that you've cultivated. Problem is when they are now in spirit, you can't, as a human being, cultivate that natural happening because it doesn't work like that. You've got to start then working with energy on an energetic level. And if you aren't refined within your clear senses, this is where they are going to start feeling off. They're going to feel cold. You might not, for example, you might not see their face. You might just see an outline of them, but you might not see the face. And you might think, oh, is it because they're trapped? Is it because they're evil? No, it's because your ability of clairvoyance is not refined. You get what I'm saying? I hope you can see. I get dead passionate when I'm talking about that because spirit get very frustrated because a lot of the times the spirit world will come to individuals and people push them away. They're like, no, go away, go away. No, 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 I don't want to see you like that. I want to see you like how I remember you. The problem is naturally, it's not always going to be that case. It can't be that. It can't be a complete replication of how they were in the materialistic. It's never, ever going to be like that. Right. So, every time I blink, it's closer. So what we're referring to now is every time I blink, it's getting closer and closer. The silhouette of the spirit is drawn close. But there's always a space between us until there wasn't. Last night they leaned in, close enough that I could feel them breathe, or whatever they used to breathe. They touched my forehead gently. Then I woke up full of sweat and shaking. But if they're my loved one, why was I so scared? Their touch felt like a stranger. What you've got to remember is again, coming back to what we've just mentioned, I should have read the rest of it, really, shouldn't I, to do it, but we've just answered that, really. We've just completely answered that. You've got to remember, when you are thinking of your loved one in a spirit sense, it is going to feel different to how it would have in the materialistic, because there's no gauge for how it works in spirit. For example, a lot of you, when you feel love that's manufactured on the earth plane, it's going to feel a specific way. When you feel spirit love, it's going to feel very, very different. Now, for yourself, what you've got to understand is, for yourself, when they're coming to you, as every time the reoccurring dreams happening, more and more things are starting to become aware. And I've spoken to you off camera, so I know exactly that this has been a build-up of weeks and weeks and months. And one of the things that you've got to understand is it's like I tell to each and every one of you, right, to always document your journeys, always document everything that happens to you, because it happens so quick. From the very, very first dream that you had, where you were sensing them, and then look at where you're at now, you're even feeling them. They're coming close, you're feeling the air. This is because the spirit world, each and every recurring dream, are exercising your clear abilities. They are coming to you, they are helping you, or they are wanting you to be able to connect. And whilst in a materialistic mindset, in a fashion, they might not feel like the loved one that you once knew. That's going to come with time. You are going to very, very quickly start realizing that the problem's not them, the problem's you. And I know that might seem horrible, and to each and every one of you might go, oh, bloody hell, he's just said that. But the spirit world are still the same as what, you know, when you go into spirit, it's in the spirit world come forward in the form of an orb, and they show you a life lived. They can show you the person that you once knew, 100%. But you as an individual have to learn how to be able to decode the energy, to be able to feel those sensations, to organically be able to connect once again. Sorry, everyone, the energy is coming through really strong there. Just take a second to compose myself. We've explained there why a lot of the time you won't see the person the way that you once did. Because a lot of people think that it's just a case of clicking your fingers, going into a dream, and the spirit world can just show you everything they need. Yes, the spirit world can show you, but if you as an antenna, remember when we spoke about an antenna at the beginning? If you as an antenna don't know how to receive and you don't know how to decode information, the problem is the spirit world can show you everything, my friend. But the way that you decode it is going to be based on the way that you have refined your extrasensory perceptions and your clair abilities. So, in a nutshell, this 100% is spirit communication. The reason why you've woke up sweaty and shaky is because as you have been going through all of these different senses, all of these different emotions, a lot of people don't realize when you are using clair abilities in a sleep-like state, I mentioned this on quite a few videos, you will often use more energy than you would in any other given time. I often, when I was doing training with the spirit world and I would go into dreamlike states and I would be educated in lecturing halls and stuff like that, I would wake up more tired than when I went to bed. And this is a fact. There's a lot of people who will tell you the same. And this is why when you go into a dream where you're exercising your clear senses, you will wake up sweating. It's not because you're being possessed. It's not because there's anything trying to take over your body. It's not because the spirit world are trying to scare you or the room's hot or all of these different things. Well, it could be the room's hot, couldn't it, really? But the fact, what I'm trying to make there is because a lot of people are saying, my room's hot, does that mean it's something demonic? No, listen, don't worry about demons. I work with demons. Demons are given that name tag on this planet to incite fear into the populace, to corrupt the logical minds and thinking of mankind. Demons are, the realms. You'll hear me referring to them as the realms. And what you've got to understand is you shouldn't fear the spirit world or the realms. You have to protect from poor understandings and bad teachings. And unfortunately, this earth plane is saturated in an abundance of misunderstandings and illogical practitioners who, unfortunately, spout out their nonsensical notions. But yes, don't worry if you wake up and that room's hot. That doesn't mean to say that the realms are there. The realms want nothing to do with any one of you. Trust us when I say that. Unless you want something to do with them. It's like a phone call. If I saved the spirit world on my phone as a number, and I also placed the realms in on my phone, I don't call them demons, apart from obviously in explanations, because that shows mankind's ignorance to the topic of what they actually are. But if I was to put the spirit world in my phone and I was to put the realms in my phone, for me to initiate that phone call, I would have to type in the number and press call. It's the same with spirit world, mediumistic communication, and the realms communication. If I was to wanting to work with the spirit world, I would have to think of the spirit world, place my intent, and there we go. We are now with the spirit world. If I was wanting to work with the realms, I would have to place my intent, that's initiating the phone call, and then there we go. So not one of you will ever work with the realms if you don't want to. And if you do want to, it's great. I actively encourage each and every person on this planet to work with the spirit world and the realms, because by working with two different energies, you can get double the results, especially if you want to do paranormal investigations or something along that line. I've had tables lifted onto one leg. I've had items thrown across the room for us. I've had people pulled by the feet off chairs. I've had people pushed on command for us. It's absolutely awesome. And before anyone says, oh, Jordan, that's kind of scary, actually, you've got to understand, I live and thrive for this. For me, evidence is everything. I'm not like the stereotypical people that you find who just like to pretend that there's been something, or listen, I pride myself on my ability to bring forward evidence of the afterlife from the connection that I have, which each and every one of you will gain from this channel. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to round it up. So as you can see from this, I hope this has helped a lot of you who are also experiencing this. Reoccurring dreams are fundamental to spirit communication, but in the first instance, do not put them down as being just the spirit world. Look at the medical side of it first. A lot of the time, people write off the medical side of it because we kind of become arrogant to the fact that we have to look after ourselves. I mean, I do that as well. Listen, honestly, I'm going to be straight down the. I've only just started going to the gym. I've only just started really starting to look after myself. So again, it's one of those things where sometimes life takes over. But if you are having reoccurring dreams, you've got to remember if these reoccurring dreams are happening, then you need to be in control of your life. You need to try and identify if there's anything in a medical capacity or any medication that you're taking that could be, you know, contributing to them. Or if that's not the case, then we should definitely be looking, is this spirit communication? And if it is, get it all documented. I hope you have all enjoyed this video. It's the very, very first video that we've got on the channel for the new series that we're going to be running, where we're going to be answering the viewers' questions to each and every one of you. Remember, if you have got anything, you can send a voice note with what's happened to you. If you don't, and that will get shown on here. If you don't feel comfortable with that and you want to send a text, send us the text, send us the story that's happened to you and you want an answer to it. And what we'll do is I'll get a narrator to speak your story, tell your story, and then we'll be able to put it out for the community to see and for the rest of the world to see, to raise awareness that we aren't crazy, people aren't crazy, and people should not be scared to speak out. People should not be scared to have their say or to have their voices heard. The times are changing, and this is the dawn of a new era, my friends, and each and every one of you are here at the beginning of this. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. Remember, if you did enjoy this, remember to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you to all of the channel members. And if you did enjoy this video, check out the videos pinned in the top left and right. Until the next time, bye-bye for now, everyone.